What is happening, Nerd Squad, and welcome back. Shang Chi opened last week and it is absolutely crushing it in theaters. If you haven't seen it, it is fantastic. By far one of my favorite standalone Marvel films. Easy, like takes the cake 100%. Simu Liu, star of Kim's Convenience and some epic stock photos, brought this character to life in such a natural way. Shang-Chi's life is full of adventure and honor, but like most superheroes, it's also chock full of tragedy. I'm your host Taylor McWaters, and here are the top 10 worst things that have ever happened to Shang-Chi. Also, spoiler warning for the movie as well. I'll be diving into his origins both in the comic and the film adaptation, so sailors, ye be warned. Let's do this. Kicking off the list at number 10. Born to Kill. Whenever it comes to superheroes and parents, origin stories usually begin on an awful note. Shang-Chi was raised to become a deadly assassin. He didn't have a choice because his father was an immortal sorcerer crime lord. In Shang-Chi's first ever comic book appearance, Special Marvel Edition issue 15, right on the cover, readers are told that although Shang-Chi is the world's most fearsome fighter, and the following pages really drive that home, Shang-Chi is faced off against 4 deadly men, but he's just walking through these guys. He's leaping over swords, he's ducking under kicks. Shang is fierce, but when he's fighting a guy with steel limbs, it doesn't even get close. Shang-Chi declares these metal mitts as useless, seeing as, you know, they're connected to a now broken spinal cord. It's brutal. He takes out another guy by using his left foot on the right side of his face. It's quite intimidating and powerful. But that's what happens when you're taught how to break necks at the age of 4. So when he reaches that last guy, he's called a fool. He says, no matter how skillful you are, you'll never reach my master, Zhang Zhu. But Shang says, actually, you're the fool. That deadly man is in fact number 9, his father. Yeah, sometimes your parents are evil. It happens. I mean, Gamora, Raven, the Maximoff twins, you don't pick which side you're born on, but once you realize something's not right, it's definitely your responsibility to get the hell out of there. Now, in the MCU adaptation, that's just what he did. Tony Leung plays Zhu Wenwu, the leader of the Ten Rings organization, father to Shang-Chi, and he had discovered the Ten Rings long before the MCU. He found them thousands of years before the birth of his children. These rings allowed him to win many wars, and he did so under the alias the Mandarin. Now, seeing this on the big screen was a spectacle. Watching Wenwu take over armies and single-handedly wipe out hundreds of warriors never looked so good in IMAX. I don't know how else to say it. It's beautiful. The fight choreo is so good, chef's kiss. But eventually, while searching for more land to rule and armies to best, he came across the village of Ta Lo in 1996. It was a paradise filled with mystical beasts. It was an ideal land to have, really, but it wasn't easy to find. He lost his men whilst traveling through the cursed forest, but like other roadblocks, those 10 rings made it easy for Wenwu to make it through to the forest and find the land of Ta Lo. And that's actually where he met Ying Li, aka number 8, his mother. Ying Li was guarding the entrance to Ta Lo, but Wenwu at this point was used to this. Only when they started to fight, she displayed her own powers, and they were strong enough to finally match Wenwu's strength and durability. They fought for a bit, but ultimately they were impressed with each other's moves. And of course, they fell in love. They got married, had 2 children, Shang-Chi and Zailing. Now, this was a turning point in his many, many years of ruling, because Wenwu retired the rings at this point. He wanted to leave his extensive history in the past and just be a family man. We love a change of heart, yes, love it. But one night, while the kids were still very young, the Iron Gang returned to get revenge on the 10 rings, and Wenwu was not around at that time. Ying Li fought the gang off as long as she could, but there were just too many of them, and she sadly died protecting her children. When Wenwu returned, he would never be the same again, and neither would Shang-Chi. Before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, that would be awesome. We love your support, it really does help us out so much, so thank you for watching and tuning in and subscribing. So hit that thumbs up and we can continue bringing content to you. You're amazing. Let's get back to this list. Number 7, first mission. In the MCU, young Shang-Chi joins his father simply to witness the brutal retaliation he inflicts upon the Iron Gang. And it feels scary at this point in the theaters. It's very intimidating. Wenwu just destroys the room. The rings are back out now in modern day. He's blocking gunshots, he's hucking tables, all the while poor Shang-Chi at a young brittle age is forced to watch. He's seeing this side of his father for the very first time. It's quite a lot. But in the comics, his first mission was much more hands-on. His first mission in the comics happens when he's an adult. Now, this is the first time he's in the real world post-training. He's sent to assassinate the most evil man alive, Dr. Petrie. He's super old, but his father refuses to let him die of natural causes. That's insane. The peace of dying at an old age in your bed, that must be denied to him, so Shang-Chi has to be the one to now do it. This next bit of dialogue is important here. He knows that he's trained to be a killer, and the only guiding light is that he thinks his father is an honorable and truthful man. So if this is what has to happen, then it must be for the greater good, right? So he gets close to the doctor's bed and he stops and he thinks for a minute. He's so old and feeble, this feels so wrong to do. The guy's 90 years old, he's in the middle of sleeping, the guy's literally in REM. What harm could he possibly be doing at this point in his life? As he's sitting there debating all this in his head, Shang-Chi looks over and the old man opens his eyes, and that's when his training takes over and Shang-Chi just hits him once, and that's enough to end his life. On the way out, he was approached by Dr. Sir Dennis Nayland Smith. He reveals his true origins, and Nayland sets the record straight on who's really on the right side here. Number 6. The cat. So after this point, Shang-Chi had become a hero, or at least that was his intentions, which is better off than how we started. His father wasn't happy about his life choice, obviously, so he sent a number of assassins to take him out. During his travels, he met other martial artists and of course other superheroes. He also met his rival, Cat. Shang Chi made his first appearance in Master of Kung Fu issue 38. He too was a master martial artist, and now he was a formidable spy in Hong Kong. First for communist China, and then later on as a freelancer. Shang-Chi was sent to recover lost documents, investigate Cat, and a British agent named Juliet. But when Cat saw Juliet and Shang-Chi talking amongst themselves, he thought that she had revealed his whereabouts. He's skilled, perhaps too skilled, Shang-Chi thinks, because while they were kicking each other in the neck, Juliet stabbed herself just to get them to stop. Now according to Shang-Chi, neither of them know who is more skilled in martial arts. Cat is also immune to the powers of Black Mamba because he's already technically living his greatest fantasy. You love to see it. Even his villains are cool, you know? Whenever you have a hero and his main villain is a cool guy, you're like, ah, it's tough. As far as villains go, I mean, pretty sweet that you're directly matched. And also they're punching each other in the face. I could watch this all day. Number 5. Midnight Sun. First appearing in Special Marvel Edition issue 16, Midnight Sun aka Minai was the only survivor after Shang-Chi's father had wiped out a British village. Seeing the rage in the young boy's eyes, he decided to raise the boy alongside Shang-Chi, so naturally the two became besties. They became best friends, they worked together and grew up together. After Shang-Chi realized what his life was becoming, after he left, his father sent Midnight to take him out. How twisted is that? His own family, basically. So they fought an emotional battle, but in the end, Midnight fell off a crane and in turn broke his neck. Doesn't anybody listen to Edna Mode? No capes! No capes, or else you'll just Gwen Stacy yourself. Number 4. Humbug. Another ally, another fateful day. Humbug, aka Buchanan Mitty, first appeared in Web of Spider-Man issue 19. He began his days as a Spider-Man villain, which I honestly love, really sticking to the theme of growing up on the wrong side of the track, but after being defeated by Spider-Man so many times, he was like, you know what, screw it, if you can't beat him, join him. So he and Shang-Chi were part of the 2007 Heroes for Hire, and he ends up getting infected by the Brood Queen, and in turn he's forced to betray his teammates. So Shang-Chi was forced to, take him down. And he also does so by ripping off his head. I feel like there's a more peaceful way to do it, but who am I to ask? I mean, look at this. Number 3. Spider Island. A Spider-Man villain going good. We love to see it. Any big change to a character is always fun. Good, bad, or downright weird. Like for example, in 2011's Spider Island series, Shang-Chi himself gets infected with the spider virus. And he changes quite a bit. He gains similar powers to Spider-Man, which is cool off the bat, but he also starts having nightmares where he turns into a literal arachnid and subsequently attacks innocent civilians. In Spider Island Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi is recruited to take on the Bride of Nine Spiders, who at the time was holding Iron Fist captive. While he's trying to handle this sticky situation, he mutates even more and his nightmare becomes a reality. The spider's instincts were trying to take over his mind and spirit, but luckily for Iron Fist and his strong will, the spider look didn't last too long. Too close for comfort though, way too close to turning into a spider. Any of those I gotta include, that's a nightmare. Number 2. Domino. Shang-Chi has many lessons to teach, so it's not bizarre that heroes often go to him to sharpen up their spirit or fighting skills. One of those heroes was Domino. In Domino issue 4, released back in 2018, the pair are sparring, they're learning, they're bonding, and then when they're later on in a nightclub, they're kissing. Nice. That's when trouble likes to make its grand, horribly timed entrance. Shang-Chi helps Domino gain her lost knowledge of her powers, so she was able to now save the night single-handedly and take down these enemies. But when Domino finally comes face to face with the one who sent said enemies, Topaz, she can't resist her teacher's advice and she kills them. Shang-Chi was disappointed on many levels, so much so that he had to break off the relationship, both romantic and professional. And finally, number 1, his dated comic book origins. Yeah, we have to talk about the differences between the early comics and what's being represented on screen now, because they're Completely opposite, much different. Because if you're reading old Shang-Chi comics to have a better understanding on who his father is and what you're going into for the film, you're going to see some stereotypical, offensive, aged content. His father was originally referred to as Fu Manchu in the comics, who Marvel brought out in 1973. Marvel at the time was trying to make bank by capitalizing off popular martial art films and themes. It was discontinued later on in 1983, but this is offensive content that they now have to use to branch off into other side stories like Avengers and stuff like that. Shang-Chi star Simu Liu himself has opened up recently about the role and its historical impact. He says, when you look at the character of Shang-Chi through the comic books going back to the 70s and the 80s, the fact that he existed and the fact that he was an Asian character was amazing. But at the same time, there are aspects of that portrayal of him that maybe could feel a little stereotypical. So when we first started to map out who this character was and who his journey was going to be over the course of this film, we were all very sensitive to not have to go into that stereotypical territory. Now, director Destin Daniel Cretton tried to wipe out as many negative elements as he could, and in the movie there's a powerful moment where the characters are reflecting on the Mandarin from Iron Man 3, and the way that they mention it, well, the way they retcon it, really, is done in a smart and, dare I say, charming way. Guys, those are just 10 of the worst parts of Shang-Chi's life. It's always tragic when it comes to superheroes, but that's what makes it so compelling and human. If a part 2 is in your deepest desires, hit that like button, let us know, and then we'll do the rest. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Keep on being you, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. Later, skaters.